So it's June 19th, and uh, Node.js Build work group meeting. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is upgrading our compiler toolchain. This is something I've brought up with our team internally a while ago, and it started from this commit. Let me actually open the issue. And it was started, or this commit initiated the reason for bringing it up. And it was, they started using STD format on V8 upstream. And this is a feature that's available on GCC starting GCC 13. To be more specific, I think it should be 13.1. And I think CLang or Clang supports it, I believe, from 14. I have the details here. Yeah, and Clang 14. They reverted the CL because it obviously broke our builds, and I think it also caused some complications on their side as well. Yesterday, there was another CL that actually broke our builds because of a bug. And it seems like it's a bug. I'm still waiting for my patch to land. But it's a bug. It seems that it's on GCC 12.3 up until 12.3 and 12.5, I believe, up until 13. So it's fixed on GCC 13. I have a patch for it here. I'm still waiting for them to review it. And essentially, we need to upgrade our compilers soon, either to a higher version of GCC, which is GCC 13 or 14, or move entirely to CLang. Google, or V8 more specifically, they dropped supporting GCC a while ago. And I spend a lot of my time actually patching GCC because, you know, Clang it may be more forgiving, but GCC is more restrictive. So we have to patch things to make sure it compiles with GCC. So by default, all the platforms that V8 supports, ARM, ARM64, i32x86, they all should, from the V8 side at least, they all should compile fine with Clang because that's what they use. They use the latest version of Clang, unlike us. If we choose to move to a Clang-based compiler, we obviously can't use the latest version like they do, but it would be recent enough that it would make these type of maintenances on GCC a bit easier. I'm assuming we still need to maintain it if we start using Clang. We still need to maintain it because we're using older versions of Clang versus new ones. Maybe the new ones have build time flags that older ones don't support, so we still need to patch things, but I'm assuming it shouldn't be this bad. So the need for upgrading is there. We need to upgrade soon. But this is a good time to discuss if we can do Clang, or if we can do GCC, or if it's possible for us to, you know, make it system specific. Maybe PPC S390 go. I don't even. This is just a suggestion, so you know that's not. I don't know if it's a good idea or not. We can discuss it today. We can do Clang for PPC S390 and GCC for other platforms that don't want or don't support it yet. What are your thoughts? Anybody? People are, you guys are on mute. Yeah, Joey.
Oh, hello. No, I'm just joining. Not sure what was being discussed.
Oh, hi, Joey. We're talking about upgrading our compilers, this issue here. So again, you know, go over it quickly. V8 has started using new features that, you know, GCC 12 doesn't support. I found a few bugs. One of them, here that I'm trying to patch, which is in GCC 12. So we need to upgrade our compiler soon. And given that Google doesn't support GCC anymore, they started a while ago. V8 doesn't support GCC anymore, and we're doing a lot of work to keep GCC functional. It might be worth it to just abandon GCC and move entirely to client. We need to compile. We need to upgrade our compilers regardless. So now we got to choose if we want to go GCC 13 or 14, or do Clang, or do a mix of both. I need, what are the thoughts? What do people think we should do?
Do we have an idea about the timeline? It seems relatively recent. So,
What is relatively recent?
the change that requires STD format.
Yeah, so this is recent, but it's reverted now. So this is from May 26th. I told them, this it doesn't work. We're not there yet, and they reverted it. And it also caused a problem on their side as well. But they reverted it for now. There is no timeline, to indicate, this is a fixed date that you're going to start using it. But they said, you guys should upgrade your compilers because, they'll eventually start using it. I would say sometime this year. And we just found a bug. I just found a bug yesterday, which means, if they continue using C++ 20 features, which they are right now, especially in they're using it extensively in TurboChef and maglev, it might just cause problems for us. So the need to upgrade compiler is definitely there, but we want to choose, would it be easier for the users and the rest of the community to use Clang or GCC or both? Like, how do we want to do this?
I'm not sure whether the dropping of support of GC was like at the same boat in the same boat as NSVC. I can't really remember what they said in last year anymore, but my impression was that NSVC was just like completely dropped. They're not even going to take patches.
Yes, yeah,
Whereas
the V8
GCC was
completely
like,
dropped.
if you send patches, they're fine, but they're not going to have it like integrated into in their builds.
Yes.
Okay, so um I guess it's less urgent, but it does seem useful to eventually move to Clang if issues like this keep coming up. I
Yep.
guess my um my question would be like, for example, if we run into a situation where we need to support compiling LTS on a fairly old, for example, Red Hat distribution, and then like um wait, what was it? Um, I'm just wondering, like, what if users get stuck with a fairly old Clang 2 chain on a Linux distribution and they need to support newer version of Node?
Then it
Um,
will compile.
sorry?
It just won't compile.
Okay. Because
Um,
I don't really know how people usually manage Clang on the distributions. I have some vague idea about how people manage GCC, but
well, as an example, on Linux on PPCS 390, it's very similar to GCC. You just install it from repositories using DNF, Yum, whatever tool that is that you use, and it's you get the version that's supported by that specific Linux version. For example, on I think 8.5, RHEL 8.5, it was Clang 19, if I'm not mistaken. It was either 18 or 19. So a fairly recent version of the compiler. It's not that old.
I think
Um,
if like the system support situation of Clang is basically similar to GCC, then it seems fine to just switch to Clang.
but we got to consider, obviously, there are some platforms that don't yet fully support it. And AIX IBMI is one of them that they're working towards having it fully supported. I'm not sure if there are other platforms that Node supports that don't have Clang. SmartOS, I'm not sure if does the SmartOS have Clang? I guess not sure.
I have no idea.
So this is something that we want to, discuss in the community, and we just don't want it to be a surprise. So people won't say, "Oh my God, all of a sudden you're moving compilers. What's going on?" Again, doing a I don't know if doing a mixed approach is a good idea or not. I'm not sure. Like, some platforms can start moving towards Clang, but the ones that don't support GCC, the thing is, if we do that, then people that are on GCC, they need to maintain the builds themselves, and that just causes complications. And it's a constant thing. They need to constantly build V8 and make sure everything is patched. So that's not an optimal solution, but it's still on the table. We'll have to decide. I've
I
done the
think
tests on PPC. Go ahead, sir.
I think that's currently already the case. We use Clang on Windows and macOS, so it's kind of already the case. It's just like on other more basic systems. We haven't really switched to Clang, but it's already
Okay.
kind of ongoing. Like even the hardest
Okay.
one, the Windows one, is already.
Okay. I guess. How about ARM and ARM64, like the ones that V8, like x86, ARM, ARM64 that are not on Mac?
They're GCC at the moment.
Sorry, go ahead.
At the moment, they're GCC.
At the moment, they're GCC. Okay, so I'm assuming from the V8 side, it shouldn't be a problem moving those to Clang because V8 obviously compiles them by Clang only. So those should be fine. PPCS 390 Linux on these platforms should be fine. Abdurrahim, what is the situation on IBM?
So yes, for IBMI, we don't have Clang yet, but we're working on building it.
Okay.
On
Can I ask
AIX,
what version?
right now, my current build is like 20. Clang
Okay,
20
that's pretty recent.
yeah, exactly. But on AIX, they do have pre-builts on AIX on upstream Clang, but the latest one
Okay.
that I've seen available was 18 for AIX. But I think that one might be built with OpenXL C on the back, behind the covers. But that Clang version
Okay.
is there. So on AIX, it's a matter of just trying to use it and working through any, compile failures or things that we run into.
Do you have it like a working binary right now, or you're still in the process of building it?
On IBMI,
Either one.
on AIX, there is a working binary. There's a pre-built one, and yeah, I think on AIX it's a lot simpler. On IBMI, it's a work in progress. I built it, but I wanted to run the tests to make sure things are working, and there's still complications that I'm running into on that side.
Okay. And if let's say bugs come up, things happen. Do you guys know the team that maintains Clang and IX IBMI? Because you constantly work with them, right?
I'm not connected with the teams that maintain on AIX. On IBMI, that would be my open source team.
Okay.
My team that manages it.
Okay. Great. So again, if we end up if we need to upgrade, let's say within the next 2-3 months, some CL happens, more bugs come up that we have to upgrade. I'm assuming doing an upgrade to GCC, let's say 13 or 14 for the time being, just to make sure everything compiles, everything is there. Then eventually moving to Clang might be, is it too much work? Do you guys think this would make sense? Or if you're upgrading, might as well just upgrade completely to a new compiler like Clang? Is it essentially a waste of time just to do GCC 14 for a few months and then do this whole thing all over again?
Yeah, that's a good question, isn't it? So one of the other things on the agenda is the Rust stuff for temporal. How much of that is going to be different? So if we switch to Clang, how much extra stuff will we have to add for the Rust support on top of that?
I think they're separate. I mean, they're obviously both dependent on LLVM, but for Rust, it doesn't matter if we change to Clang or change, upgrade to GCC. We have to do the similar amount of work for Rust. If Rust is already supported on the platform. If Rust doesn't support it, that's a whole different story. But if Rust is supported on the platform, I don't think it makes a difference. That's the same amount of work to bring in Rust.
So what I will say is that so for the sake of argument, let's say we're targeting Node 25, which is the next major version of Node. The planned date for that is October-ish. So ideally, I'd like to have any CI changes in place end of August, beginning of September. I don't want to be doing machine updates and reconfigurations end of September, October time, because that will be really disruptive to preparing for the major. So I think we can continue to have the discussion. Probably, let's say mid-August.
Okay.
By which time we need to have made a decision what we do. We can probably get newer GCCs into the CI system and upgrade temporarily. It obviously involves one of us on the build to have the time to apply that via Ansible onto the machines and get the machines updated. And then there is a select compiler script in the build repository, which we can once the compilers are on the machines, it's fairly simple to switch by node version which compiler is used where, at least for GCC. It should be relatively simple to switch to Clang if Clang is also installed, but we haven't installed Clang yet on most of the Linuxes at least that I'm aware of.
Okay. Another thing to consider is for platforms that don't have either. So AX, IBMI, they don't have GCC 14, 13, 14, or correct me if I'm wrong, upgrade, or Clang. So I don't think it's fair to ask them to do both, to compile both and get them ready. So we should.
So I mean, obviously, I work for Red Hat, IBM. AX is a tier 2 platform, so we have to treat that as a tier 2 platform. Sorry, Abderin, but IBMI is still experimental. So to be honest, it's up to IBM and us to figure out the solution for IBMI, but that's not really going to block upstream node releases. So if IBMI is not ready come Node 25, then it shouldn't hold up stuff. AX, we are going to need to try and figure out a solution for. I don't know what the solution will be, but we do need to try. And if we already have Clang binaries, then maybe we can experiment and try going to that if that's available. But for example, GCC 13, 14 aren't. I haven't looked, so I don't know what's available on AX. But I mean, that's my position, is that in terms of upstream releases, AX is something we would consider, being an issue in terms of figuring out at least a solution or a path forward. IBMI would be nice to have from a community point of view. It's more a sort of concern for IBM. So if that's not ready, then yeah, it's not going to block the release.
I think whether, coming back to the question about whether we want to upgrade to newer version of GCC or just switch completely to Clang, I think maybe one of the worst case to consider is if someone gets stuck with a relatively old Linux distribution, and from the official repository, the newest version of GCC and the newest version of Clang that they can get, compare those to which one is more likely to be able to compile a newer version of Node, like VA in Node. Okay, my instinct would be probably the newer version the newest version of Clang that I can get from that old distro is going to be more capable when parsing like C++ 20 syntaxes. Because I pretty ran into I don't know whether I can verify it with a Clang tweetchain anymore, but I've pretty ran into issue where some company that I work with, they have a relatively old Red Hat and the newest version of GCC cannot parse some syntax because there's a bug in GCC and they like there's a bug in GCC. So um, I haven't verified whether I can just make that go away. For example, if I try it Red Hat but try with the newest version of Clang instead. But I feel like maybe I can just try again to see whether that would be the case. But my hunch would be if they have to get stuck with the newest version of Clang available on the old distro, that might be a more optimal situation for people who have to get stuck with the old distros.
You're absolutely right. And it's not just features and bugs. It's that GCC throws, to my experience, a lot more compilation errors compared to Clang. Clang seems to be more forgiving. So even if you have the latest version of GCC, it might still throw errors that Clang doesn't care. It's like, okay, sure, I'm just going to compile that for you, no problem. So, and Clang that's again what they use in V8. So none of those errors would pop up because they didn't during their development. And yeah, that's actually a valid thing. Okay, so I don't want to drag this too long. So it seems like going down the CLang Clang path is doable. It's not an impossible option. And again, for the sake of AIX and IBMI team, not to waste their time. It seems like because this is, we were debating on which one to choose. It seems like it's safer if you guys just continue with Clang. So if we need to upgrade, just use Clang. Let's say if we have to upgrade and you guys have to, upgrade faster than the rest of the platforms, you should still be safe to use your latest Clang binary and maintain it on your own for now, because 20 is fairly recent. 20 is fairly recent, and it should be close enough to what they use upstream right now, and it shouldn't cause too much problems. Hopefully, unless there are bugs in AIX with Clang and LLVM, which that's a separate story. Okay, so I will update. We have a few issues, that this public one here and the one that we have internally. I'll update them with what we just discussed, and I'll add a few more notes here on what we're gonna do.
If I could try and gather like readily available versions of Clang and GCC on the various Linux and the various platforms that we either support or know are in common use, and then at least we'll know what gets cut off in either direction. If we adopted a newer GCC or we adopted Clang, which operating systems will no longer be able to build Node, because it's whenever we bump anything in terms of the tool chain, it normally means that something falls off at the bottom. So at least it might not prevent us doing it, but at least we will know what the consequences are and can communicate that when we make that switch.
It's a good idea. Do you know, are you able to do that, or do you know anybody on the team that would do that?
I should be able to do that. The question is just finding time. So just for the sake of people watching, I'm in the middle of being moved from Red Hat to IBM. That will happen at the 1st of next month. So right at this moment in time, I'm having a lot of stuff to juggle around relating to the move. But definitely from July, I should have time to do it. So like I said, I think, if we aim for trying to get a decision made by mid-August at latest, which doesn't mean we can't make the decision earlier, but it does mean we have a little bit more time to, we don't have to make the decision this week. I should be able to find time to do it. It might not be until next month, but it depends. I mean, it's a case of just looking stuff up and then recording it. So it shouldn't in theory take that much time, but it is finding that time.
Okay.
But it's a worthwhile thing to do anyway. So
That's true.
I think maybe as a first step, we can try to have some kind of daily build of on like Linux with Clang. I think I tried locally when I was investigating something before, but it's probably already like you can already do it if you set the CC and CXX environment variable correctly. And we can already try it out to make sure that it actually works on certain like more common versions of Linux. And then we can think about how we get there.
Okay. That sounds good. Yep. Yeah. Just do a trial on a bot for a while, for a few weeks, I guess, and then monitor it. Okay. Okay. That was good. That was productive. Anything else on this topic for now? No other comments? Okay. Let's move on to the next one. Requiring physical 2FA for build, work group, and web infra members. Anything that we want to discuss on this front? No?
so there was a thing about maybe disabling some of the less secure two-factor authentication mechanisms. So not necessarily. So one of the things was that we don't believe GitHub can enforce physical 2FA, but can detect what it deems to be less secure 2FA. And the common one is SMS messages for second factor authentication codes. It looks like there's quite a lot of collaborators that still have SMS messages or get flagged up in the query that says these people are using less secure 2FA. I don't know if that needs to go up to the TSC and maybe have a discussion as to whether that's something we might, change as a policy, which is that. So we do have an org-wide policy that everyone needs to have 2FA enabled. And I guess it's a question of, do we want to go a step even further and enforce, disallow the what are termed less secure methods. I think in terms of the actual ask about requiring physical, I think we've discussed previously that the best we can do is recommend it, that we have no real way of enforcing it. And yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll fix the spells later. Okay. Anything else? Nope. Okay. Moving on. Potentially transition to 1Password for secret management.
I don't think there's been much new on that. This was Ryan's suggestion, and I'm not opposed to it. It is so when it was first proposed, there were some discussions around like we don't rotate keys, and there's potential issues when people leave the build working group and still have access to old secrets. I pointed out before that I don't believe switching to 1Password actually changes that. The fundamental thing is we're not rotating keys probably as often as we should be. But it doesn't matter if we're storing the secrets in 1Password or anywhere else. The rotation is kind of separate from the actual storage mechanism that we are storing the secrets in. So there are some secrets that probably do make sense to store in 1Password. So anything that's like a login for like a cloud provider probably could be in 1Password rather than. So at the moment, most of the build secrets are GPG encrypted in a Git repository. There is some automation we've got in Ansible that pulls secrets out of the GPG encrypted secrets repo. That could also possibly use 1Password, but again, it requires someone to look at that and make the recommendations in order to do it. So, I'm not opposed to 1Password. It would obviously require work in some circumstances to convert like the automation. For things like the logins, they could be put there, and you just go to 1Password instead of GPG decrypting. The one question is around access. So at the moment, the one password that we have is owned by the TSC, I think. So in theory, the TSC has visibility of everything in that one password vault. They don't currently have access to the build secrets. So it's a question about, you know, is that widening of access something we're comfortable with, or would we want to have another, you know, transitioning to one password, would we want a separate one password vault that, you know, only build accesses and, you know, isn't part of the existing TSC owned vault because of the, you know, visibility concerns. So we haven't really come to a conclusion on that yet.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Thanks, Richard. Next one would be replace works on ARM machines affected by Equinix Metal Sunset.
Okay, so what I know about this, so Ryan has taken over this from me because you know, I'm having time troubles. He's been engaged in an email thread with the Works on ARM program. It's how do I phrase this? It appears that there's still some stuff to resolve on that front. So we know for definite that the Equinix Metal is being sunset next year. We have been told that the ARM machines that we're currently getting that are sponsored through the Works on ARM program will disappear prior to the sunset date. So they're not going to remain all the way through to 2026. I don't have a firm date. I think Adoptium may have been told a date for their machines, so I would imagine it's around the same sort of date, but I don't know. I can't remember exactly what that is. So yeah, we are going to lose a large amount of our ARM capacity, testing capacity. We have a very small amount of ARM capacity at OSU, but it's nowhere near as, you know, the machines are nowhere near as powerful as the ARM Ultras that are currently hosted at Equinix Metal. So at the moment, we don't know what or if we'll get replacements for those. Ryan is trying to sort of work out with the Works on ARM program and/or, you know, other providers what we might do in that space. So at the moment, we know we're going to lose machines. It's not quite clear exactly when, and at the moment, it's not clear what they would be replaced with.
Okay. I guess Brian is not here right now, so no more updates on that. Yeah. Moving on to the next one is infrastructure for Orca 2024 and beyond. Yeah, I guess Ryan is not here right now. And any of you folks have any idea about this, or there's not much to discuss since we don't have everyone here today? Yeah.
We don't have Ryan. I don't know exactly. So there is an issue in the build repo, I think, about upgrading Xcode. And again, I think it's related to V8 updates and moving the compilers on. So yeah, I'm not sure where this one is. I think we keep, every time we as a whole try and do something on the Orca cluster, we generally get told there's a new version of the Orca cluster coming on and we should upgrade. So I think that was the last thing I saw, was that we were being asked to upgrade the Orca cluster again. And I guess that would require time, you know, for Ryan to make sure that happens.
Okay, so we'll leave it for now. Let's close that. Let's close that. I guess those are all the issues we had under our agenda. Anything else that we
on the build repo? The remaining one was the Rust issue from the core repo.
Oh, did I miss it? Hold on. Oh, Node.js not right. Sorry about that. I missed that. It's an important one. And yeah, temporal support. They've started working on this on V8, disabled it on our platforms. This is on my list right now. I'm just talking about PPCNS 390. And the priority is similar to moving up compilers because they're related. But I'll have to figure out which one we want to do first. We still have some time before we have to have them available on our platforms. So, given that they've started using a lot of C++20 features and errors are happening, it might be more necessary to upgrade compilers compared to this, or we might do it at the same time. We'll see, but yeah, this is coming. Anything else you guys want to add, Richard?
No. I mean, I think it's going to be unavoidable. So I think we are going to need to add Rust into the build toolchain.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping it's not going to be too much in terms of extra complications, in terms of what we have to install onto the machines. So yeah, at least I know we've had discussions internally within IB and Red Hat because we see it in the upstream V8 work, and now that someone else has opened issues for Node itself, it seemed prudent to add that to the build agendas, because ultimately it will be build that will have to update the machines to put a Rust toolchain in there. I think we would still prefer to have control over the toolchain and install things from the operating systems rather than relying on Google's bespoke toolchain that they use to build V8. So my preference would be to avoid putting a dependency on the Node build on Google's build toolchain, because that's quite large and pulls in all sorts of stuff. So if possible, I would like to go through to maintain what we currently have, which is we are using compilers from the operating systems that we're building on, whether that's the default package with the operating system or some alternative, like on the RHEL platforms, you get GCC toolsets if you're going for a GCC, and I'm presuming there'll be packages for Rust compilation on most of the Linux distros, at least. I don't know about the others platforms. So, for example, I don't know Windows, for example. I don't know what we do there, but yeah, at least I guess start working out what that might look like and what we might need to do to the build infrastructure.
Yeah, similar to Clang, they use their own binaries that are pulled when you pull down V8, and I'm assuming it's also the latest version that they built. They have a separate team that works on it. So I don't think for PPCS 390, obviously we can't use their binaries. We have to use the system provided ones, and even for x86 and ARM, I'm assuming you have to use the system ones because you probably won't be able to use the latest versions that they provide. And yeah, the workaround, it's not too difficult. Last time I looked, I haven't fully worked on that yet, work pending, but it's a matter of just changing the binary path from third-party folder, which they point to by default, just change that to whatever the system folder is. So that needs to be patched.
Well, ultimately for Node, I mean, Node doesn't use V8's build config anyway, so it's not using Ninja, it's not using Bazel or any of the supported is not the word, any of the V8 upstream build files. We are still on this GYP system that V8 dropped a long time ago. So the Rust stuff is going to have to be presumably converted into GYP somehow, which will be another. So the first, one part will be the toolchain and getting the toolchain onto the machines, but then the other one will be like actually enabling those Rust components. Temporal is the one we know of, but through the GYP build system for V8 that we are currently maintaining with upstream and within the Node project.
I think that probably wouldn't be like too difficult if we manage to get all the flags and the list of files correctly from whatever they're doing with GN, because we are also doing the same with certain assembly files and Python files during the review process. So
yeah, I'm hoping it's not going to be too difficult. Obviously, it's a different tool chain to the C tool chain, so I don't know whether that will be more complicated in GYP or maybe not.
I guess as long as we're not actually thinking about making any of that part configurable, it should probably be not too complicated. Because we only
Yeah.
we'll only ever support like just whatever VA needs.
Yes, hopefully.
Upgrade. You have your hand?
Oh yes, I just wanted to mention, yeah, similar to Clang, there, AIX does have a Rust binary as well. Just a matter of like making sure both of them work the way we expect it to work and just playing with it. And like Richard mentioned, since AIX is tier 2, that would be the priority, making sure it's working there first so that we're not blocking the builds for being released. As far as IBMI, there's similar to the Clang situation. That's like work that needs to be done to turn all that build Rust and make that work. But the good thing is on IBMI, we only release LTS versions to customers. So honestly, it won't really affect. We don't release like Node 25 or anything like that. So it gives us some time to make sure we have Clang and Rust and everything being built out.
I mean, while we know that temporal, is being written in Rust for V8, I think most of the things I've seen, is still saying that this is like a year away while they stabilize this. So I don't know what sort of time pressures we're looking at for this. I know that it's a feature that JavaScript users or Node users are looking forward to, but until V8 says it's stable, it will remain experimental or maybe not even available in Node. Depends where I get. First thing is we've got to be able to build it, and then the second thing is the time frame of actually enabling it and builds and making it available to the end users. So I suspect this will be a longer time frame than the earlier discussion about compiler issues, which is going to be a real issue at some point with a future VA update, probably this year.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, they said it's a year away, but
yeah, I just don't know if that's a realistic year away or that's the default comment whenever anyone asks when it will be.
Yeah,
I mean,
Google's year away is different. We don't know.
It could be anything. Honestly, it could be even later than a year. It could be much earlier than a year. Well,
and I think we know that we're going to need to plan for it. So whether
yes,
or not, we're still
this whole Clang and Rust thing is we got to do it soon. So we don't need it next week, but soon. Okay, so that's that. Did I miss anything else here? Let me see. Close that. So we discussed that. Okay, so nothing else in the agenda. Anything else we want to discuss here that I've missed or not missed? No. No, people seem quiet. And all right, yeah. So these are the platforms. I see we have a lot of experimental. We have a lot of tier 2s, and I guess in terms of Rust and in terms of Clang, experimental is experimental. This is not going to be a problem if you don't have these binaries available.
Yeah, most of those experimental platforms we're not building in the CI on regular pull requests. I think even like the ARM7 stuff we've turned off for main now because we couldn't get the last version of V8 that's in Node 24 building on ARM7. So I think the only experimental platform that we are running regularly in the CI at the moment is IBMI. and everything else we're not running at all in terms of upstream CI, as far as I know.
Okay. That's
IBMI even in this table?
yeah, I don't even see IBM. It's not here.
No, maybe it's not. Okay, well, that's that then. So we used to run FreeBSD, but then again we stopped because the build stopped working and it was too much.
Okay.
I think even like the cloud providers stopped providing out of the box FreeBSD images, so we would have to bring our own images and everything to build on those. So yeah. But yeah, definitely anything that's tier 1 or 2 on this platform, on this list, is something we will need to. So tier 1 is absolutely blocking, and tier 2 we need a working CI for. So yeah, both of those tier 1s and tier 2s we'll need to consider.
Yeah,
and then experimentals are nice to have, but not blocking.
Okay.
And that first table is like general supported stuff, and then below that is like the actual binaries and tool chains that we're actually using. So that first thing is the little table above it is the minimum. So yeah, at the moment we say as long as you've got GCC 12.2, you should be able to build on Linux. Obviously, if we move things, we'll have to update this.
Yeah.
And that table at the bottom of the screen you've got there, that's what we're actually using to build the binaries that are on Node.js.org. So despite whatever we say in terms of minimums, these are the actual things on the actual release machines that we use to build the binary.
Okay. Yeah, Darwin obviously is client based already. GCC 12, and who maintains these builds?
Windows. Well, the build team, but Stefan's on the build team. Stefan Stefanovic.
Okay.
From JJ. So
okay. Got it. All right, so for this list, then I guess it's safe to say that at Graham you can continue with the client part and client upgrade and yeah, I mean whenever you're ready, then we'll test it and slowly release things down the road. I'll make a note of all this in our internal issue as well, so we can track it. Okay. That's the end of the list. Anything else we want to discuss? I'll stop sharing. I'm going once, going twice. Folks are quiet. Perfect. Thank you for your time, and we'll talk in 3 weeks, I believe.
thanks, Steve. Bye.